What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and today we are doing a versus between the X-Transbot Scourge and the Fanstoys Scourge. To be fair, the X-Transbots has been out for a long time. In my opinion, it should come with a handicap, but the rules are the rules, and them the rules. So we're going to be comparing the two and having a little conversation about it as well as we move through. And of course, the same sort of rules apply. I try to be as objective as possible. Of course, some of this is subjective. It has to be. Then there's things that are more objective, like the Sunbow scale chart that I have to use something in order to base the judgment off of. You can criticize the accuracy of the scale as much as you want to, but I need something to choose from. And I have a little bit extra to add at the end, a little bit of a conversation at the end too, briefly, but it'll be there. So we're going to do all those things, but you know where we start. And we'll start with accessories. So accessories-wise, the Fanstoys comes with the 4 heads, the 4 additional heads that I have gripes with, but he comes with them. He comes with the blaster, they both come with that. He comes with the target master, they both come with that. The X-Transbots came with accessories for Apollyon. I don't think it's fair to count that, so I'm giving the accessories to Fanstoys. Now, gimmicks, they both have the kind of face being visible in alt mode gimmick, tie there. But the X-Transbots has the matrix storing gimmick in his chest, giving him the advantage in the gimmicks department. Moving on to build and materials. They are both built fairly well, but I have to give the build ultimately to Fanstoys. The question is why? The answer is, if you remember, my X-Transbots constantly had those blue missiles in the back of his head and sort of pods there falling off. In addition to that, the beard was off and missing, stuff like that. It's a simple thing, but I don't have those same issues with the Fanstoys. Materials wise, I'm tying them out. The Fanstoys comes with more die cast, and that's great, but both of them, the plastics feel good. Both of them, the die cast feels good. So I can't really give one an edge over the other. Moving on to hardware, I have to tie them out. They both have ratchets in the shoulders, albeit the Fanstoys is lateral, the X-Transbots is around. They both have ratchets in the waist, which I found surprising. They both have ratchets in the hips. They both have ratchets in the knees. It's a pretty objective tie there. So we'll move on to Sculpt and Paint, and we'll start with the full frontal view, so to speak. And I think the Fanstoys takes it, but I think it takes it because of the paint. I gotta be honest. However, when you start looking at the little nuances, like the bits that are kind of thrown up inside the wings of the X-Transbots, whereas the wings on the Fanstoys are more clean, I think it is only right that it takes the full kind of frontal, as it were. Face sculpt wise, I gotta give it to the X-Transbots. I'd like the eyes better. I hate these eyes on this Fanstoys. That's just my personal opinion. It looks a little too doofy, a little too toony for my taste, a little too childish. But paint wise, easily goes to Fanstoys, not just here, but pretty much, not pretty much, throughout. This is one of the best painted Fanstoys figures in their history. They're going to take the paint in every way, shape, form, or fashion. But I can't give them the sculpt here. From the side, I don't think that there's a clear winner here. I actually like the nose better on the X-Transbots ever so slightly, but I don't think it's that distinct. So I'll tie them out from the side, giving X-Transbots the point for the head sculpt. Looking at the chest, torso area, I think it's a tie. They both have the vents on the abdomen. They both have the kind of ridge lines on the chest. They both have the obliques cut out. They both have that kind of square going down the center of the sternum. I don't think there's one necessarily greater than the other. Obviously, the paint goes to Fanstoys. From the side, once again, I don't think there's anything really noteworthy. They both have the oblique lines cut out. They both have the chest lines cut out. The X-Transbots does have those extra vents, but I don't think it's enough to award them a whole point here, in my personal opinion. So I'm going to tie them out for the torso abdomen area. Moving on to the arms. So I think they're pretty close. However, from the front view, I hate that that joint is so visible on the X-Transbots. The Fanstoys joint is much more elegantly hidden away. So I'm giving the point here to Fanstoys because I do think that's a big enough difference. From the side, I gotta give it to X-Transbots. I think what they did with the bicep is just far more interesting. Otherwise, it's both pretty similar, right? But I think the X-Transbots has a lot more character in all the different elements that they added there. Paint, of course, goes to Fanstoys. The pelvis, hips area, I think are negligible. I do think that the joints are more visible on the Fanstoys, which isn't my favorite thing about it, but some of the angles are a little bit more dramatic too on the Fanstoys, so that being said, I think it's worthwhile giving them a tie here. From the side, I don't think we're capable of splitting hairs here. Like, it's pretty much the exact same thing. Different shapes and so forth, but nothing that's a blowout here sculpt-wise. So this one's a bit trickier. The Fanstoys is obviously more striking, right? I don't think any of us could deny that, but I think it's more striking because of the paint. The sculpt work is pretty pretty similar. The boots sit a little lower on the Fanstoys. They sit a little higher on the X Transbots. They both have the kind of vent down at the bottom. You could argue the X Transbots is more purposeful there. I like the clawed toes better though on the Fanstoys, so I don't think there's enough here to give the edge one over the other. I'm tying them out for the legs. From the side, I think the Fanstoys looks more cohesive. It looks more purposeful. It looks more put together. That big bulbous thing on the back of the X Transbots kind of suggests like, hey, I got a whole ship hiding in here or whatever the case may be. So I got to give it to Fanstoys from the side, which would give Fanstoys the point for the legs. The back view, kind of a similar situation to the front view. It's just more put together. It looks more finished. You know, they both have this leftover stuff. Fanstoys kind of cleans theirs up a bit more. X Transbots sort of like throws caution to the wind. And as a result, we got to give the back view to Fanstoys. So let's talk about it. They tie at the torso and pelvis pretty much because they do the exact same thing. They tie at the upper legs as well, to be honest. They also tie at the arms because I think the side view for we don't really break that down as much when we go through it. X Transbots is better. I think the front view for the Fanstoys is better. Fanstoys takes the front and back view as an overall presentation. I think largely due to the paint, but can't deny that it's far more clean, far more finished, far more put together. Fanstoys takes the legs because for pretty much the same reasons as the backpack, just more finished, more put together. X Transbots takes the head sculpt mainly due to the eyes. I just can't get past those Fanstoys eyes, which gives Fanstoys the point easily for paint, but also for sculpt 3-to-1. Moving on to articulation. So the head for the X Transbots is on a hinge swivel. There's that back piece falling off again like we talked about. You don't get much up. You get a little bit down, but you get a wide range swivel. The Fanstoys utilizes the same engineering, but you get far more up. You even get a little bit more down. And you don't get as wide a range of the swivel, but you get two more range of motions far more. So we got to give them the head articulation overall. Waist swivel, no ab crunch. Waist swivel, ab crunch. Universal joint for the shoulder. Get you out to 90 degrees, ratchet it around. Universal joint for the shoulder. Get you out to 90 degrees, maybe a bit more, and around. Bicep swivel, bicep swivel. Double jointed elbow for the full range. Single jointed elbow for slightly more than 90 degrees. Wrist swivel with fully articulated hands or fingers and thumb. Wrist swivel and hinge in out on the ball peg slightly and fully articulated fingers and thumb. Universal joint for the hip. Get you out to the side to almost the full range. Forward's a little bit limited. Back is a little bit limited. Universal for hip. Far more limited out to the side. Better range up front. Pretty similar range in the back. Actually, a little bit more limited. I think I got to give it to X Transbots. Thigh swivel. Thigh swivel. Double jointed knee. That get you to 90 degrees. Double jointed knee. That get you past 90 degrees. Toe tilt up and down, but no ankle tilt. But you do get an ankle rocker. You get an ankle tilt down, no toe tilt, but you do get a rocker. So I'll tie them out for the... So they tie at the shoulders, thighs, and ankles, pretty much doing the exact same thing. Hands as well, to be fair. X Transbots takes the elbows for a wider range, the hips for an overall wider range, and Fanstoys takes the head for a 2-to-1 on range. Fanstoys has a wider up and down, so to speak, whereas that's two motions in my opinion. I know it's one joint, but it's two different ranges that we're measuring. So that's 2-to-the-1 of X Transbots swivel. Fanstoys takes the wrist for the in-out motion. It takes the waist for the ab crunch. It takes the knees for a deeper range, giving Fanstoys the win in articulation over the X Transbots. Scale-wise, I know this is going to upset some people, and I know that Scourge is slightly on bended knee here like a Boys to Men single in the 90s, but Scourge is still supposed to be a bit shorter according to the Sunbow chart, or this representation of the Sunbow chart, I guess I should say, than what we see here. I can't in good faith give that point to Fanstoys. The X Transbots is just a little shorter, and it appears that shorter is the right, quote-unquote right anyway, move here. Transformation-wise, neither one of them are a walk in the park. But the X Transbots really suffers because of having to deal with the feet and tucking that toe and heel in through the bottom of the ankle in order to pop it out the other side. It's a nightmare. However, the Fanstoys, most of it is a nightmare in comparison. So while I don't think that either of them are necessarily enjoyable, if I had to pick which was more enjoyable, it would be the X Transbots. So they get the point. Alt mode, I gotta give it to Fanstoys. I think the X Transbots did a great job as well, and I think you could make the argument that the X Transbots looks more like the cartoon show, like a little bit more bulbous, but the Fanstoys is far sleeker. It does an awful lot to get that sleek, but that sleekness is not lost on me. So I'm giving Fanstoys the point for alt mode. Moving on to accuracy, I mean, come on, we gotta give it to Fanstoys, right? That's exactly what they're going for, and I think that they're successful in it. I wouldn't say it's a 1-for-1. In fact, that's what I like about the Fanstoys, but they're definitely aiming for that mark and did a better job of obtaining it than the X Transbots did. Moving on to price point, and I think we have to give it clearly to X Transbots. I remember him being closer to 150, but I guess this is adjusted for inflation a bit. Either way, it's a far cry from 220, which is what we're seeing here for the Fanstoys. So, you know, talking turkey, pretty objective point here. Which one do you think looks better? Okay. Same one?
Same one.
Okay, thank you. All right, which one do you think looks better?
I'd say probably this one. I still think I like my first one better.
Okay. Which one do you think looks better?
I mean, they both look pretty evil, but I guess this one.
Okay.
Scary Terry.
What did you say?
Scary Terry.
Scary toy?
Scary Terry.
Scary Terry.
Yeah.
Which one do you think feels better?
The same one I picked the first time.
Copy that.
Oh, we got pink nails.
Mm-hmm. All right, which one do you think looks better?
I like this one.
This one over here? Okay. Which one do you think feels better?
I think this one feels better.
You like that one better overall. Okay. Which brings us to our end. So they tie in materials because they both are made of good materials. They tie in hardware because they pretty much have the exact same setup. X Transbots takes the gimmicks because it has 2-to-1 on the Fanstoys. Takes the scale because it's more accurate. Takes the transformation because it's less horrendous. And it takes the price because it's cheaper. Fanstoys takes the rest. They take accessories because they have more. They take build because there was issues with the X Transbots build, specifically with those missiles in the back of the head, as well as my beard. Has a better range of articulation, somewhat surprisingly. It won the sculpt, easily wins the paint, smashes the paint as a matter of fact. I think the alt mode is sleeker. My family preferred its presence 3-to-1, and it wins accuracy. For a final score of 8 for Fanstoys, doubling the X Transbots offering, which has stood the test for a very long time and does need to be remembered. And thanks for its service. Let's wrap it up. And there you have it. There's the outcome, right? And it is what it is. 8-4. That's pretty much it's a tail whipping. But the X Transbots did do a good job of standing in for some time. So as usual, what we've been doing now with Sit Down Saturday is kind of adding a bit of nuance to the scores and seeing what different kind of characteristics one may have over the other that lend to certain playability features, right? Or collectible features, like why you would want to buy something like this, right? So let's just go ahead and break those down. So in terms of the best display, we take into account the build, sculpt, paint, and presence. Fanstoys takes the build, sculpt, paint, and presence for a landslide of the best display piece. I don't think there's any arguing with that. For the best transformer, we take into account build, materials, and transformation. Fanstoys takes the build, they tie it materials, and X Transbots takes the transformation, making them a tie for the best transformer, a first here on the Sit Down Saturday Versus, as far as I can recall. And most playable, you take into account the build, the materials, the articulation, the transformation, and accessories. Fanstoys takes the build, they tie it materials, Fanstoys takes the articulation, X Transbots takes the transformation, and Fanstoys takes the accessories, making Fanstoys the most playable. Now, there is one other thing I wanted to touch on. I want to first give a shout out to Blaster. He's over on the Patreon, and he hit me up about this and did a beautiful job. One of the things I've been critical of with this Fanstoys piece is the eyes. And to me, the eyes seem more indicative of the cartoon and less indicative of the movie and less indicative of the cooler art involving Scourge. So I want you to take a look at some of this. So here is more of a drawing of the kind of more mature looking Scourge, right? With the more angular eyes as opposed to teardrop eyes. And then here, if you look at this picture, and both of these were provided by Blaster, but if you look at this picture, you'll see on the left the Fanstoys offering, and on the right what I'm talking about, and then we'll get in close on the middle so you can see between the two. I just wish we would have had one that was more like the other side as opposed to the one we got. The fact that they're all the same is a little irritating to me. So look, if you missed It Down Saturday, come on over to Patreon where you'll get 3 to 5 a month depending on the verses and stuff like that, because I think I have another verses coming here soon, along with Dummies Uncut and tons of Legends reviews and other reviews and first impressions and it's more than enough. Even if it's just sit down Saturday, sometimes you're just paying $1 an episode. And then you get everything else for free. Think of it that way. But it's worth looking into, in my opinion. I think you'll find that people in the comments will definitely co-sign that is money well spent. Other than that, I have at least one review lined up for next week, if not two. So I'll see you shortly. And to the Skeleton Crew on Patreon, Zoom meeting tomorrow. See you then. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.